In addition, just I would like to add two lines actually. Sir got very short span at our Dibatu University. Once he took the charge, he had changed all the academic curriculum, so many new things introduced at a Dibatu. He has introduced the major as well as minor first time in India as in a technological university. Even he has started first time, that is internship program for the last semester. So all the students from the Dibatu University, those who are pursuing education at last semester, they are free to go to the internship industry, and by that there is exposure to industry, and students are getting good opportunity to place in that particular industry. Sir, thank you. Thanks a lot for your great contribution to our university. Thank you. Pleasure, sir.
Good morning, Professor Sanjay Koji and all other participants and the organizers. It's nice for me to come into this virtual mode of interaction directly with one of the honorable Executive Council members of Dibatu, Professor Sanjay Koth, and you all. I think this is the first interaction I have after leaving Dibatu Vice Chancellorship. I feel very happy. I feel very happy. And this is the basic thing, I think. As a professor, my first enjoyment is in interacting with the people, teaching, research, interacting with the people, and disseminating whatever little knowledge of 0.1% or 0.001% I have extra compared to colleagues in different domains. I think it gives me really great pleasure to be here with you all today to share some of my thoughts about our new education policy. I think we'll have some presentation, and I would be very happy to have detailed discussion about various points, and I request the participants to initiate discussion rather than just listening to me. Interaction would always fetch better results. The government of India recently, as every one of you know, has come out with a new national education policy. Some people started questioning why it is not just new education policy 2020, why it is national education policy 2020, new national and new NEP 2020, why not it is new EP education policy? Like earlier, twice we had EPs during previous regimes. The basic purpose or the objective of framing the title itself, the national education policy, as I understood from my interaction with some of the eminent people, is something I would like to call upon all the participants to just remember our national song, Vande Mataram. Why it is called as national song? Why it is not a song? Something to have a feeling of nationality, nationalism, that word of national, more importance, that is pertaining to the entire nation, emphasizing integration of the individuals into the mainstream of the nation, or amalgamation of population into the nation. I think that name of that word of national is added to education policy, making it a national education policy. There were criticisms I have come to know from one of the highest persons in public fora. Why it is named as national education policy? Why not education policy? What is the use of national? It is this, that to give a feeling that we all belong to one nation, and therefore as a nation, whatever policies we are making, all these are for the nation, but to emphasize and reintroduce that nationalism aspect into the education, the National Education Policy 2020 has come into being, resounding some of the ethos of previous eras. Without going into much more about this, I now go to the next slide. What is this?
Just click it, sir. Yes. Once again, you need to share, sir. Hello.
डिस्कनेक्ट झाले वाटतं बहुतेक सर ते तिकडनं.
Sir, I think you are disconnected. हाँ, तुम्हारा लग रहा है. Some network issue. Sir will join shortly. Yes. Sir is joining. He has some network issue. Yes, sir arrived. Okay.
Is it okay? No, Professor Sanjay?
Yeah, just sir, share the document. I can't see
Yeah,
the
yeah.
document.
Yeah,
Just
Settings.
just it will take some lag is there always. It will take some time. Uh, Screen share.
Where is it?
That at bottom, sir, it is there. I can see your screen. Yeah, at bottom, just near to the mic camera, the screen is there. Just press it.
Is it?
No,
Is
no,
it
sir,
okay?
no, sir.
No.
No, no, sir. Not visible. PPT is not visible.
Okay, where is it? Settings, huh?
No, not sitting here. At bottom, that there are 4 icons: mic, camera, screen, and leave. Is it there? Can you see these 4 icons? Even sir, you can share, send me that PPT, and till that simultaneously we'll work on that.
Screen, share, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, here is yes.
Now it has
Great,
come.
great. Now it's fine. Just make it full screen, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Full screen. Yes, yes. Thank you. Great. Just yes. Make it full screen. Yes. Fine.
It has come.
No, sir. Click 1 second, sir. Click it.
Is it okay? No.
No, just you need to click again. Sir. Otherwise, you can go to the slideshow. This top at top, near to animation. Here at center, first row, near to animation. That insert design and slideshow. Go to right, sir. Go to right.
Yeah, yeah.
Slideshow. Just click it. And now left. That is from the that's second. That's first second. Sir.
From current slide, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Please. Yes. Thank you. Please.
Okay. I think we stopped here. About, am I audible?
Yeah, audible. Start, sir.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, friends, I'll just yeah.
Make camera off. Camera on. Sir.
Camera on.
Camera is off. Now it's off.
Okay.
Your camera is off.
I think let it be over. No problem.
Okay, okay. Okay, sir. Okay, please.
Let people watch slide. While later I will show my face.
Okay.
I think it is here. Okay.
Yes. Great.
Yeah. This did I give you? Could you hear what I said about vision? No. No.
No.
Okay. Friends, the vision of our new national education policy is it envisions an education system rooted in Indian ethos, which I have already said a little bit, that contributes directly to transforming India, that is Bharat, sustainably into an equitable, which is very, very important. Equitable is wherein opportunity is provided to all sections of the society, whether it is socially or economically backward or otherwise, getting into the education system by somehow, some means, so that no single individual child is left out of the education system. The policy aims at that. Sustainably into an equitable and making our country a vibrant knowledge society, which is very, very important and very significant in the present day world, by providing high quality education to everyone and thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. The three words of global knowledge superpower carry very much what is a significance. These are of great significance. If you have knowledge, everything else flows. If you have Saraswati, Lakshmi follows. We believe in that. If you have knowledge, no, people will look at you. If you don't have knowledge, people look down to you. So if we are able to transform our nation into a vibrant knowledge society, I think the rest of superpower, you talk about economic terms or in defense terms, things will follow. Economy will automatically generate once we have knowledge in the nation through the youngsters. Why so much importance is given to new education policies? Because we are going to have huge talented young force in the country. I think you will all agree with me that when we were studying, rather we were of different nature. When you people, I can understand, though I am not able to see the faces of the participants, you all must be at least 10 to 15 years minimum juniors to me in education field, many of you. So mostly you also have you had to depend on textbooks in the library. We had the culture of going to library, reading books and then gaining knowledge. But now students with the click of a button can get much more than what you have in your brain from what is happening around the world through the computers, through Google search, going to the websites of various other universities and following the research works. So they have means at their disposal to gain knowledge, and IQ, it has been proved that the IQ of the present generation is much, much higher than we people. In the classroom, therefore, we need to be more smart to attract the students, not only to attract the students, to see that the churning out ratio is very less in the classroom. People do not leave the classroom. It's a very tough task. So we have to be smart. So therefore, the new education policy envisions that we provide such a wonderful knowledge to the students, making it interesting to them, and therefore they sit in the class, they sit in the university, they stick to the institution, and somehow they are empowered with knowledge. So this is the basic vision of our new education policy. I will not go much about into Indian ethos. Indian ethos means I don't want to just take the some typical things, but you yourselves know that what are the Indian ethos. It is based on values. It was based on science and technology also. Science and technology, undoubtedly. One example is the iron pillar standing at Qutub Minar, which was constructed maybe about 1,000 years back. 1,000 years back. Still it is standing without rust. At that time, we did not have the technology imported from Germany. We didn't have technology imported from Japan, who considered to be the topmost. Germany in metallurgy, it is rated as the topmost, and then Japan also. So without their aid, our own people, in those days, this so-called modern technology, all these things were not there. But still, our people, especially tribals from the present Chhattisgarh, around Ranchi area, they were known for great metallurgy. Every household had a small kiln of their own. So what happened to that? That is, I feel, Indian ethos. And then we had lots of medicines, Indian medicines. And even now, I tell you one great example is those who know a little bit about Hyderabad. I come from, my native is Hyderabad. You have Jinda Talisman. It is a Unani medicine developed by some individual there. And we have a simple thing is Faruqi Dantamanjan. That is a tooth powder. Still, I tell you, I use it. though we use all the toothpaste, but at least twice a week or so I use that Faruqi Dantamanjan, which is made up of so many mulgas and then roots and other things. Still, it is in spite of so much technology we have into toothpaste preparation or manufacturing, but still it is surviving, and people feel that it is much more healthier than the modern whitish toothpaste or pinkish toothpaste. So where all these things have gone, none of us give any value. None of us give any value. None of the teachers, I don't say, when I say, I think I should not say none of the teachers, because I keep telling 99% or 99.9% of the teachers do not take uh, such exam. There are plenty of examples available around every one of us in every state, every district, to be fed to the student about our age-old ethos or practices, but we don't do that. So what NAP says is, try to dig out something from those which were already practiced and try to do little more to make it more scientific and more technological based one, so that we become self-sufficient and self-sustainable and give something back not only to India, to the world around. And the policy also envisages changes in our curriculum and pedagogy systems. And it also gives a lot of importance. I think we need to have uh, fundamental values undisturbed. Many people, I don't know whether it is right or wrong. This is not the time for me to comment on that. Every faculty member says the present day generation of students, the mindset is different. They have changed. They don't have respect. They don't have this thing. They don't have that thing. They don't have respect to education. They don't have respect to teachers. I don't know, but we can take it in a positive way also. Somebody needs to be telling them about certain values. Instead of telling them certain values directly, it is better that we follow and show them the path, those, so that without being told through words, they understand what a teacher is and what are the basic requirements for a student to follow in an academic institution, which is based on fundamental duties, understanding of the fundamental duties and the constitutional values and all those things. And it also talks about the importance of bonding with our own nation. It's okay, different people take it in different ways, but ultimately, unless you have something attachment to your village, to your place, I think that is something beyond imagination, and it is, the feeling is inexplicable. Once you get connected through some attachment, I am very sure you'll be able to devote more time, and you become more committed to do something for those people, or to your district, or to your state, or to your nation. Next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why this new national policy has been brought in? The objective is by 2040, our education system should be second to none in the world. Now we all agree, all Western countries, whether it is UK or France or Germany or US, or maybe on east side you have Japan, Australia, all of them, they have gone much ahead of us in university system, providing a totally different educational ecosystem to the students. This policy therefore aims to make our country by 2040 the best education system with equitable access to the highest quality education to all the learners regardless of socio-economic background. So we should become, if not the leaders, at least comparable with some of the foreign universities like Texas University, University of California, Oxford, or maybe University of Queensland, or private universities like Monash, Australia, which is on the top 10 in the world. So it aims, this policy aims to create such an education system in the country. We all will have to agree that education is the fundamental for achieving full human potential. Education gives you not only knowledge, but assessment of yourself, that is self-assessment, and then understanding of the society, so that you can mold yourself in doing what is required first for yourself and your family, and then to the society. And education is a must for developing an equitable and just society. Unless you are educated, unless you know the status of your fellow Indians, I don't think, unless you have idea about what is going on around your village, around your district, around your state, or around your nation, and around the world, I don't think it will be possible for you to identify, forget about assess and then solving the problems, to even identify the problems faced by the society at large. Unless we develop such consciousness, it is not possible to develop an equitable society, which is a big problem in our nation. There are so many reports coming that India is creating so many Ambanis and Adanis and something like that. The economy is being stashed into the hands of few people, whereas it is not equitable, that is, it is not being shared, that is, all the people in the society are not given an opportunity. Maybe it is true, I don't know, I cannot comment really on that, but certainly to a certain extent, certain sections of the society still have not come to the level of reaping the fruits of our freedom of plus 75 years. So our new education policy aims at developing an equitable and just society. It is not just a society, it is just a society, that is justified society we have. With pride we say, yeah, all the benefits are reaching to every section of the society, and ultimately promoting national development. Good quality education definitely is a prerequisite for continued ascent of the country internationally, economically, and leadership on global stage in terms of economic growth and social justice and equality. We get so many reports, even Times, US reports, India is not having an open society, India is not doing certain justice to some sections of the society. All such talks will be over once we empower the population with good quality education, because everybody becomes empowered with knowledge, therefore they have different means of earning, and then leading a respectable and dignified life in the society. And it aims, education is the key for scientific advancement of the nation and national, therefore leading to national integration. At the same time, very important is, without disturbing the culture of our nation, that is cultural preservation. I've just given some examples, a couple of examples. There can be so many things. Lot of knowledge we had, lot of knowledge was generated in India about mathematics, chemistry, metallurgy, engineering. And most of the civil engineers and those who have little knowledge about astronomy, you know what marvels have been done in the country in creating structures and in creating movement, that is about records about the movement of the solar system itself. We have even now knowledge without based on our computers or any foreign inputs. We call it as a Panchangam, which predicts the movement of sun with seconds or a part of second level refinedness for next 100 years. So all this belongs to us. It is developed by our people. So the cultural preservation at the same time also is very, very important. Yeah, ultimately it aims or seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable or quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities to all, because education is a lifelong learning process. Therefore, what needs to be done by every one of us? It requires revision, revamping of all aspects of education system, whether it is your syllabi, whether it is your regulation, whether it is governance of your institution or your university, in order to create a system that is aligned with the aspirational goals of 21st century generation. Instead of education, I would say 21st century generation, building upon India's traditional and value systems. Why this a traditional or value systems are added is, unless you have good traditions, good value systems, whatever system you build, it is not going to last for long. I think we are all the examples of sustenance of our traditions and value systems, in spite of being under the rule of 200 plus years of British rule. So they could not change the system of our nation. They could not change the values of whether human values are the same for every religion. They could not dilute the religious values of either Hinduism or Islam or okay, Christianity is a new input we got from them, or Jainism or Buddhism. Nothing happened because our systems were based on certain values and traditions. So once you have such an education system built with traditions and good traditions, good values, it is going to last forever. What should be our aim? It is not just important to produce a good technocrat. I may become an excellent engineer because somebody has read out my biodata, having done 60 research projects and plus 190 publications and maybe about 180, 190 consultancy projects. All these belong to me and Shastri only. But unless I give out the knowledge to my next generation, to the society, and unless I have some humble values and human values, it is of no use. And unless I share these things to the students, students will curse me. Unless I share my ideas with you, people sitting across the table today, we are sitting. You will curse me that this fellow is a very selfish fellow. Everything he keeps. So it becomes my duty to pass on the knowledge I have to my students and my colleagues. That is building a teamwork, building up a next new generation next to me. So all these things come under the heading of good human beings. I feel, I don't know what others feel, but I feel it is the responsibility of the faculty or the education system in general. Therefore, to produce good human beings, not just good human technocrats, good technocrats, capable of rational thought and action, which is very, very important. Rational thought and action. That is, you are serving the society at large. So it is that. Then possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience also. And we need to create an ecosystem wherein scientific temper and creative imagination with social values is established. And the policy states that we produce engaged, productive citizens. What is engaged? Give one example. How many of our students, as on today, are engaged academically beyond the textbook, beyond examination system. I think you yourselves can be the best judges for that. I don't want to provoke anybody here. Engage students for social work, engage students for doing some minor project work, engage students, though these some projects which are not given in your syllabi, but send them to nearby village, let them understand the problems faced by village around you, around your institution, let them get sensitized about the problems faced by the village, so that at least 10 to 15% of the population of the students start thinking about the society, and then when they come to final year level, they take up projects relevant to the societal needs. I feel uh, all these things come under engaged, that word. So we need to produce students who are engaged beyond the classroom in extending whatever knowledge they have towards the society or industry. Industry is a part of the society, of course. And then productive students, they can deliver. Such citizens should be produced through our students for building an equitable, inclusive, and plural society as envisaged by our constitution. Therefore, what is required? Our emphasis must be on recognizing, identifying, and fostering the talents of each student. Is it, I don't know, possible with the existing system? If it is not possible, something new has to be done by every one of you, every one of us. That is, you devise our system in such a way wherein the teacher is able to identify the talents of the students and then encourage such talents. And very, very important aspect is emphasis of our new education formula should be on flexibility. No hard separations. India is known for hard separations. We are very hard. We are very harsh. We don't accept any change. I think it is applicable to every one of us sitting here. We don't accept change so easily. And especially in academic system, people don't accept change. Maybe industry accepts because it is question of survival for them. But it is not so. I would like to teach the same subject. What I taught on the first day of my entry to the institution till the date of my retirement. I think I am right when I say this, due to various reasons, I think. We don't accept changes. And whereas in contrary, the new education policy, if we have to achieve all the goals, whatever I have listed out so far, we need to have no hard separation. What is hard separation? A student enters as a civil engineer. That guy or the girl will have to study BTech in civil, then they will have to do MTech in civil engineering, and they have to take up a job in civil engineering. They have to retire in civil engineering, and they have to be their last in some structure, civil structure only. We don't allow student to pursue any other sector of education, which is totally contrary to foreign universities. You have flexibility to pursue whatever interest you have, whereas in our Indian university system, as on today, we don't have such things. So flexibility is a must if we have to achieve the full potential of the students, if we have to make our society more vibrant, if we have to make our nation a knowledge society in future, there should be flexibility. Flexibility must be given to the students without any hard separations. Why not a student of engineering pursue PhD in physics department or maths department? Why not a student of chemical engineering or biochemical engineering pursue MBBS program after a certain, maybe at second year level or so? Easy to tell, but difficult to implement. But now the time has come where we have to take up that such difficulties or that difficulty, and revise our entire education system, whereas wherein a student can pursue any field of education interested to him or her. We have cases wherein a very senior engineer pursuing MBBS in foreign universities. It happens. I have a couple of friends. They left engineering and joined medical profession. Whereas you just cannot imagine our country. So this new education policy, our national education policy, emphasizes on no hard separations, no hierarchies, no silos of different areas. Mechanical is different, civil is different, computer different, IT different, and mining different. People do not know that being a mining engineer, I can tell now, the biggest machine for a mining project is built by the best electrical, best electronics, best IT, and best computer engineers. We have a machine which is of about 250 meters long only. 250 meters long, used for excavation of lignite in Neyveli Lignite Corporation in Tamil Nadu, which is totally computer operated. And the worth of such machine would be about not less than 200 to 250 crores. One single machine. So how many brains of the best brains would have gone into that? So it becomes a totally interdisciplinary approach, a multidisciplinary approach. So our new policy emphasizes on no silos of different areas, to break the barriers of your different engineering subjects, trying to offer, I think, offer other subjects if the student is interested to pursue. Allow the student to pursue whatever good he or she feels, so that once interest is there, they can really do marvels. Students can do marvels, youngsters can do marvels. Otherwise, with disinterest, if they are forced to pursue certain discipline, I think they will lead a depression, they will lead a depressed life. There, so many students are there who get into depression also. I think the time has come to break such barriers and have a multidisciplinary based and a holistic education, and more based on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning. रट मारना नहीं चाहिए. They should understand the concept, and it should be not based on learning for exams so that I get good grade point. Then give ample opportunity to creativity and critical thinking, so that the process of logical decision making persists with innovation. And new concept has come about multilingualism, the power of language in teaching and learning. Yeah, there is large population of the students coming from rural areas. There is large population of the students coming from up to 12th standard learning in local languages. And once they come to university system, everything is English. So you get maximum number or maximum percentage of failures. I think in engineering stream, if it happens, no, it will be from first year. I think this is a fact I'm telling. In fact, I was also one of the victims. Till my intermediate education in Andhra, I was in Telugu medium. When I entered the College of Engineering, Usman University, understanding the English subject itself was a big issue. And then understanding what is written in, what is printed in the book of physics by Halder Resnick, the most difficult. It was the most difficult for me, I tell you. Somehow I could overcome and then could reach this position, what I'm enjoying today, due to hard work put up. But, and one more thing is, when anyone goes to the interviews nowadays, you can feel that the guy is judged by how he speaks in English. If a guy is unable to speak in English as on today, I think it's a fact. I think that guy is rejected without knowing the knowledge of that guy in the subject. He may be having excellent conceptual capacity or capabilities in the subject. But unless the student speaks in English, I think he is discarded totally in our system, including placement system also. Slowly things are changing in placements, but still we have not come to a good satisfying level as far as this language is concerned. Therefore, Government of India is thinking of promoting this education in your own language, even at a professional degree, undergraduate level also. So some related points are given. I'm just touching important points. So we all agree that we'll have to agree. We have to improve upon the present education system prevailing in the nation. We have to provide flexibility to the students to pursue whatever subjects they feel like doing so. And then we have to provide an environment to the students to facilitate the process of innovation, interest, creativity, etc. How all these things and so many other things are enumerated. How all these things are possible in a campus. I feel the fulcrum for the success of all these things is the faculty member. Faculty is the heart of the learning process. Unless faculty knows what are the requirements, unless the faculty is equipped with certain knowledge or such knowledge, they will not be able to create a good environment or ecosystem. Ecosystem will be looked after by the management, but environment in the classroom will have to be created by the faculty. So faculty is the most important link in the process or in the success of our new national education policy. Unless all the faculty members sit together, give ideas about revamping the syllabus of a given subject or syllabi of a given stream, I don't think it is possible for the Board of Studies to arrive at a modern and forward-looking, forward-thinking syllabi for a given stream. And a Senate of the university comprising some professors, senior professors of the university, will not be able to do anything because Senate members come from different streams. They will not be in a position to assess what is what about each subject. So faculty ultimately is the most important link in the system wherein all the inputs about the education, not only education to be imparted to the students, the subjects too will be imparted, orientation of the subjects, new subjects to be introduced, revamping of entire syllabi. It all depends on the faculty. How you can accomplish that goal through the faculty. It is something to do with the recruitment process and then providing opportunities to the faculty members through continuous professional development, like some of these programs which are happening, including the present day program also, and providing a positive, effective working environment and service conditions. It is for the managements of the institutions to look into. I think they will also have to change, and that will be presented in subsequent slides. And then promoting out of the box ideas from everybody, because I am boss, whatever I say is should be correct, I think is not correct. Encourage people to come out with ideas and then adopt through discussion process whatever is the best for the system. And then the point I would like to emphasize here, because I know the value of it personally also, a good research is a core-requisite. It's not a prerequisite, but definitely it is a core-requisite for good education and development of an academic system. I believe in the fact that people say without PhDs there are excellent teachers. 100% I agree, but the percentage is very, very less. Unless you do research, you cannot give something more to the student, at least in the subject where you are teaching. Definitely research is going to add you certain new dimensions to your personality and therefore to the subject you are handling. So definitely research will have to become a core requisite for imparting good education and development. Then what should be done by an institution? We have about 300 plus professional colleges in Maharashtra. In Andhra and Telangana put together, there are plus 500 technical institutions. And in Tamil Nadu, I think under Anna University, there are more than 540 technical institutions imparting BTech, GTech, all these programs. And Kerala maybe around 150 institutions. I think these together, Maharashtra, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka is about 375 institutions are there. So all these put together will make plus 2,000 engineering colleges and pharmacy colleges. And if you take UP in North India, under AKT, you have around 600 institutions. What are these people imparting? Education. And there are definitely certain good institutions. Definitely there are institutions which need to be bettered. Their performance need to be upgraded. But in view of the new education policy, what any good education system institution should look for, it should create an environment. If they have to sustain, they have to create an environment to make every student feels welcomed. First of all, students should be happy to be physically in that institution. A good feeling needs to be created, and somebody there to care for me, that feeling needs to be created. It comes through faculty student interaction, teacher student interaction, management student interaction. So such environment needs to be created and provide a safe and stimulating learning environment in the institution. I am not going to discuss in detail. I think you all know what is required, and then ensure a wide range of learning opportunities. That means you have to revamp your syllabus, especially the institutions like the present College of Professor Sanjay, who are organizing this particular program. You are an autonomous institution. You have liberty to introduce new programs on your own. I think there should be wide range of opportunities, learning opportunities to be provided to the students. We have to introduce new courses, more multidisciplinary courses, and then put in place a good infrastructure, because ultimately it is the infrastructure which is going to attract the student coupled with the academic program, and necessary resources conducive to learning process. Above all, create such a system wherein every faculty is assured of equal opportunities and effective career growth. No faculty should work with fear of being retrenched. No faculty should work with the fear of any stress. But faculty should be made to understand the importance of research, importance of publications, importance of engaging the students, importance of creating new labs by external funding, importance of liaising with the industry. If they don't do all these things, maybe the fear of element might crop up at a later stage. So if once they fulfill these things, I think the institution should take care of the career growth of the faculty member. Things will automatically happen. I am coming to, I think, a very, very important aspect about the university system. I think many of you must be knowing, at least aware about foreign universities. You take any foreign university, you need not name ABC, take any XYZ university. Every university will have different streams. providing ample opportunities to the students to pursue their education. I feel privileged to be a student of the great Banaras Hindu University, that is Kashi Hindu Vishwavidyalaya, Varanasi. While doing MTech, I joined a diploma in finance department in violin, and I did diploma. For your information, I am first time I am sharing with every one of you. A student pursuing chemical engineering or civil engineering or BTech or doing MBBS, there is a medical college, Institute of Medical Sciences you have in Banaras University. It is in the same four-walled campus. All these things are there. There are 136 departments. There are 5 different faculties. There are hundreds of diploma courses offered by various faculties. You can join any diploma course in the evening after 5 o'clock. Classes start there from 5 o'clock. You can join and learn dance or music or something. But it is only evening classes in certain faculties. That also is not a totally flexible system, the issue. But whereas in foreign universities, you can skip from one stream to the other stream. You have lot of opportunities for lateral expansion. So try to understand where we stand as a university system. We have a technical university, we have a science university, we have a concept of NIPER, National Institute for Pharmaceutical Education and Research, only pharma. We have different silos predefined to pursue your education system. I think now time has come to break these barriers and then expand laterally and vertically also for upskilling. So we have, the problems are, we have a severely fragmented higher education system. We have general universities, we have technical universities, we have law universities. Answer, there are so many law universities, every one of you know. Why? Why a student of engineering who requires law very much is not given an opportunity to study law? We will not permit him. We say that I will teach acts related to my subject on my own. Are we really professionals to teach? If the Environmental Protection Act 1986 is dealt with by a professor of law, the inputs are going to be entirely different from an angle wherein one Shastri or one Sanjay Koth or one some XY teaches in the classroom. The interest generated. So we don't have such system existing as of today. So our existing university system or higher education system is highly fragmented with clear-cut defined boundaries, with less emphasis on development of cognitive skills, and we don't give value to learning outcomes. We believe in procedure. Whether student has attended 75% classes held by me or not, that is a prerequisite. Otherwise, I am not going to allow. I have one question to every one of you, as not now my vice chancellorship is over. As a professor, I am asking, why should I attend your class if it is not interesting to me? Can anybody give answer? I think during the discussion you may give answer to me. I have a question. Why should I attend and waste my time in attending a class of a professor who is going to read a textbook published in the bloody 1960s? And if I touch the book, if I touch the paper is going to break. The notes he brings to the classroom and reads. Instead of that, let me spend the time in the library, browse something and get a bit more knowledge. What is wrong in that? I don't know. Why is your attendance so important? Please give me answer. So our education system, university system, my first prerequisite for before going to exam itself, before a student is assessed, we see whether that fellow has attended 75% or not. If not 75, retain him. He is detained. He'll have to repeat the year. Losing a year is too much. If you know the pain of a sprinter, who lost the race in the fraction of a second, gold medal is lost. A sprint queen, PT Usha, knows the pain of it. And losing an year is too much, that too based on attendance system. So we need to change. Another important aspect is limited teacher institutional autonomy. You want to do something, but we don't allow you. I will not allow you as vice chancellor. I means as vice chancellor means the system. I will not allow. Maybe you have tremendous ideas, but because you are affiliated to me, you cannot have your own thing. Because I have my own departments, university departments with me, wherein the strand, I'm not, please don't take it as a particular ABC example, general university system I'm talking about. There are many private universities in the country as of today, like MIT, BIT, SRM, MIT, Symbiosis. There are so many examples. I know one university, Ganpat University in Gujarat, doing excellent work. Doing excellent work. There is one Sri Sri University in Bhubaneswar, Orissa, belonging to Art of Living. Excellent duty they are doing as far as social sciences are concerned. All these are private universities. Because my faculty is not up to the mark, because my departments are not up to the mark, I cannot ask you to remain there where you are today, because you are an affiliated institution to me. Therefore, the new educational policy says that bloody you break the barrier of this affiliation at all. And by 2035, the concept of affiliation will not be there at all. I'm giving freedom to you. Now devise your course of action. Have your own direction to improve your institution. And at least with the existing system of education, higher education, we have come to the level of granting autonomies to some of the institutions. I'm very happy that Professor Sanjay Khoth very ably led his institution to become an autonomous institute under DIBA 2 with a lot of flexibility in imparting education. Degree will be given by the university, but as far as the academic programs are concerned, I think we have full freedom. So new education policy talks about institutional economy. We need to create more and more and more autonomous institutions. And when you talk about autonomous institution, the teacher is the ultimate. In NIT Surathkal, where I am working, teacher is ultimate. I teach, I assess my student, I give my question paper, I evaluate, I give grades. If any problem is there for the student against me, there is a forum. One can go and complain against me. No issue. Meeting will be conducted and appropriate action will be taken. And immediately after the exam, teacher is required to share the answer books, give back answer books, evaluated answer books back to the students, hard copies. And 3-4 days time is given to the students to go through and come back and contest if any issue is there. So ultimately, teacher is given the autonomy. Teacher has flexibility to devise new courses. I think the autonomy to the teacher has come into the system only in IITs and to some extent NITs in our country, but not in universities, which are largely contributing to the education system of the nation. One IIT is one IIT with about 5,000-6,000 students. One NIT is around 5,000 students, single university. But the present universities are catering to lakhs of students. Our DIBA 2 around 70,000 students in Maharashtra. VT in Karnataka about 2.25 lakh students it caters to. So if I take a decision, it is going to impact so many thousands of teachers and so many tens of thousands of students. It should be very, very judicious, the decision to be made, and then the fulcrum of the system, a new education policy says, is the teacher. Teacher will have to be given full autonomy to devise the courses and to impart knowledge to the students. Then there is very less emphasis on research. Research is an element in most of the institution, most of the universities, state-run universities especially. It's a fact. And reason could be suboptimal governance. Yeah, this is suboptimal governance. Governance of the institution, governance of the university is not up to the mark. I don't have any comments. I think society knows and you people also know. And that's a big problem. We were facing leadership of higher educational institutions or universities in the country. And if an ineffective regulatory system we have, everywhere you have loopholes. Everywhere subjectiveness comes into the picture. It's not objective oriented. If X comes to me, I give one verdict. If Y comes to me, a totally 180-degree opposite verdict I give. A regulatory system also is not so perfect. We don't have answers to so many queries. And we have, as I said, very large affiliating universities, resulting in low standards because implementation becomes so difficult. No? Therefore, I don't put high benchmarks. I remember the system of examination in DBOT when I entered in 2019. I think some people must have been unhappy with me also, but I must thank all my colleagues on academic council and all the principals of affiliated colleges who have cooperated and readily agreed without making any fuss. I must really put it on record, my appreciation to all the principals, and Professor Sanjay Koth is a part of it. He was also a part of it. That into the 2009 up to 2009 April, DBOT students could pass a semester subject by getting 0 marks in final end semester examination. Correct, no, Professor Sanjay Koth?
Yes.
Professor Sanjay Koth, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Even if a student gets 0 mark in 60-mark question paper given by university as a part of end semester examination, and student scores 35 out of 40 internal assessment marks, student was passing.
Correct.
The first thing aberration I found after taking class as vice chancellor was, how is it possible? Is it a standard? People will laugh at us. So immediately, my first academic council meeting, I took it as an agenda, and I must thank all the principals. They all have agreed, though my benchmark was a bit higher, but I realized because it is difficult to implement also, we need to create an ecosystem slowly. You cannot create anything overnight. So we all agreed to make 25 marks mandatory out of 60 for every student to be scored in the final end semester examination. Even if a student gets 39 out of 40 marks in 40 marks, that is continuous evaluation, so class test, mid-sem, something like that, he or she will not pass unless a student scores a minimum of 25 marks in a given subject. So that is something to do with the standard. Yeah, we have our own example of DBOT till 2019, low standard, because it is very large. There will be a lot of pressure from different sources, different sectors on the university system, because it is related to ineffective regulatory system. Because regulatory system is what? Any regulatory system you have is manned by few people only. And India is such a vast system. Our university system is such a vast boundaries it has. It is impossible for few individuals like registrar or vice chancellor, controller of examination, or one dean to control everything. Not possible. It should be the duty of everybody. Everybody should chip in and make the system and establish good standards into the system. So we cannot do that. Therefore, large affiliating universities is a big problem in the country. That's why you don't have, I don't say low standards. It's a government document directly says low standards, but I modify it. The standards are not up to the mark. Therefore, it becomes imperative on our part to revise and establish good standards. I am happy now DBOT has established that 25% marks as the criterion for clearing any subject in the end semester, in spite of scoring 40 out of 40 in continuous evaluation. That is a good standard. Then we have also set a standard when we thought of offering as a part of liberal education, provide opportunity to the student to pursue subjects from other disciplines as per their interest. We said there must be a standard. Every student cannot do that. Let them study well for first, second, third, fourth, first 4 semesters and get 75% marks with a CGPA of 77.5, and then let them do, so that they put in more seriousness into the subjects what they are studying, and they can pursue other subjects with more vigor. So this is something to do with the standards of a university. And what should be the action plan? We need to go for total restructuring of the institution. When I say institution, it may be a single college, or it may be a cluster of colleges, or it may be a university also, and then consolidate. And it should be, we should be working towards a more holistic, that is giving ample opportunities, offer multidisciplinary based education. Then provide good learning environment, create good ecosystem and support for the students. We are unable to cater to our national requirements, whereas the NAP is a bit ambitious. Internationalization of the education system, so that you can attract students from abroad. In fact, when I was there as VC, our government of Maharashtra, I should salute, and the vision, they were insisting, secretaries, every secretary was insisting, DD was also insisting, Mr. Abhay Wad, our secretary Vijay Saurabh Saab, subsequently Jalota Saab, the present secretary OP Gupta Saab, they were talking to me on interrelations. Shastri Saab, devise some system where we attract foreign students to our university. Our university means Lodare campus. The biggest hurdle we had at that point of time, even now, is where to put up those foreign students. They cannot adjust to our rooms, our hostels. So we need to have a better infrastructure. Then when a student from abroad, if you want to invite him or her to your institution or to your campus, you must provide something better standard based education to them compared to other foreign universities around us, like Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or Pakistan or Afghanistan or Malaysia, something. Malaysia is far ahead of us. Far ahead of us. Bangladesh, the Gangtok University finds a place in top 200 top universities in QS ranking of the world. I think with great difficulty, Indian Institute of Science has crept into that in India. Only one out of 350 universities, and maybe now more than hundreds of IITs and NITs and other national institutions, so many central universities. So we need to provide something better to offer and better infrastructural facilities. So we need to work on that. And good student activity and participation of the students in clubs, various activities, that is extracurricular, co-curricular activities, is a must. We need to develop such things in every institution. If you have to survive, you must invest on these things. Otherwise, in another decade time, I think many of the private colleges may close down. So I wish that every institution that is functioning today must become an autonomous institution, and they should survive. And survival is only based on providing good environment, that is good academic ecosystem in the campus, and support for the students, and investing on students' activities, and supporting the students, and motivated, energized, and capable faculty. You must have good faculty, motivated faculty. Motivation, you have to, management will have to provide. University will have to provide some incentives. And then teacher education, and then giving importance to vocational education, and then importance is catalyzing academic, good quality academic research. Research doesn't mean for an electrical engineer is only sitting in the department doing it. Reach out to the village, find out the problems faced by the village, and do something for them. Government is going to fund such projects like anything nowadays. And then, yes, everybody agrees, and government also has agreed that the regulatory system of our present higher education needs to be transformed. So many new thoughts have come up. Something might happen in near future. Government feels that curbing of commercialization of education, and then ultimately everything depends on leadership. Good leaders will have to be there at the helm of affairs of the universities, and institutions if good education system in the country will have to survive. And then every teacher must use good technology and integrate himself or herself with the technology and then provide online and digital education to the students. Now UGC says 40% to be imparted online. It requires a digital infrastructure. Who is going to create? I think Government of India and state governments will have to create the digital infrastructure required. Certain digital infrastructure is available to us, existing to us, but we are unable to use it. What is the digital infrastructure we have? I don't think villagers have smartphones. Students coming from villages have smartphones. Then how to reach out if we think of online education? The only medium is to make use of TV system, television system. And I remember Reliance, that Jio, Reliance Jio has come out with a program to provide a dedicated TV channel for DBAT, for imparting education at free of cost. We were unable to accept it because we were not having e-learning materials to upload for the subjects. We were not having, even today, we are not having sufficient stuff to be beamed on TV around the clock. Getting TV channel is easy, but maintaining TV channel round the clock throughout the year is very, very tough. So you need to create the online teaching platform, tools, e-learning materials, or some virtual labs. All these things are very, very important. And then I think it is time in India for every one of us to go for blended models of learning, because total online may be problem because of infrastructure. And there is great need to go for virtual labs. I think during the last 1 year, many of the institutions have gone for virtual labs. Ultimately, our education system must move towards less content. Less content means trying to remove the academic drudgery on the students. I am very happy here to say that DBAT we all have adopted, and DBAT we adopted I think about 160 credits in total, bringing down from 190 or 185 for different departments, different disciplines. We made it very much reasonable, very much logical, in tune with NITs and IITs. You may verify NITs have about 160 to 165 credits. So DBAT is no less now. We could bring the content means number of credits to the students to about 160, thinking that a good amount of time by the students and faculty would be diverted towards research, innovation, and creativity, and doing some minor projects. And more, this is something to do with more towards learning about how to think critically and solve problems. If you take out this vocabulary jugglery also, by providing a minor project, I think student will learn something. He will start thinking critically. So these are some of the things our new education policy aims at. What is more important for every one of us to know is, by 2030, it is expected by Government of India that all the universities, all the institutions should redirect themselves into becoming a multidisciplinary based institution. A multidisciplinary based institution, you cannot continue to be just only an engineering education. You need to involve other disciplines also. It aims at ending the fragmentation of higher education. And every institution, whether it is a university or a college, is going to be called as a university or an institution only. And try to put a stop to single stream concept of offering education. No university, that is DBA2 also, cannot survive just like a technical university unless it integrates other streams into the system. And then try to have focus on whether you want to become a good researcher along with good teaching, or good teacher along with research, or simply a degree awarding or degree granting institution like autonomous institutions. And no affiliating college will be there in future. They will disappear. Either you have to become an autonomous degree granting institution or a multidisciplinary institution or university, or disappear and become a part of something like a constituent college. Of course, the procedure is very tough to imagine as well, of the universities, existing university. It is, this concept holds good even for the university also. Why this concept is brought in is, as I told earlier, everywhere else in the world, university means you must offer multidisciplinary programs engaged in high quality teaching. So our new policy also aims at this. And the concept of deemed to be university or affiliated technical university or unitary university or something, all these things will have to vanish. Keeping in tune with that, we are believers that as per Kadambari it is 64 colors, we all know. In these colors, in addition to dancing or singing or painting, and even chori bhi hai, ye kala hai. For that, let us forget that. We take only 63, and there is mentioning about science, medicine, engineering, and other soft skills also, like Tark Shastra, Tarkam we say, astronomy we say, all these things are there. I think the new education policy, in a nutshell, tries to bring in from every nook and corner of the mind of every student and faculty, whatever talent you have in whichever sector, let it be, let us give an opportunity to blossom and then contribute in that particular domain to the development of oneself and society. I think I have given whatever is possible to my mind to interpret about the education policy brought out by the government, and I would be very happy to go for discussion. Thank you very much.
Sir, indeed, it was very wonderful session, very informative, very useful for all the faculties as well as institutes.
Thank you, sir.
We'll request the participant to ask questions. You can unmute and you can ask directly to sir any questions. Sir, another is AICT has introduced engineering education in regional language. I will comment on this.
Yeah, please.
AICT has introduced from this academic year that all the engineering programs should run on the regional languages.
I think that's what my reaction to this is.
as a teacher,
It is-
as a parent,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
a citizen.
No, that is, no, in the beginning, I have given,
Yeah.
it is easy to understand in your local language, anything. Because
Correct,
you
true,
need, your mind need not put extra efforts in understanding English, then convert it into your local language and send the signal to the brain. So this
Correct.
process is, could be emulated, but implementation, I think, overnight it is not possible. You need to translate. I think at DBOT we have taken initiatives to translate books, and then we announced certain incentive also.
Yes,
In fact,
yes.
ACT has given a program. I hope it was giving good propaganda to all the faculty of our affiliated institution to write books in local languages. And maybe the AICT expects you to speak in local language, in Marathi, while explaining the
Correct.
subject, at least in the classroom. That could be done. A Telugu professor can teach in Telugu, or a Tamilian can teach in the classroom in Anna University in Telugu, in Tamil. And in Maharashtra, I think the subject could be explained in
In
Marathi, the local
Marathi.
language, so that now, especially some deprived sections of the society coming from rural population, they will understand better, and they may become, definitely you are providing an opportunity to them to become better engineers, better technocrats,
Yes.
as far as subject is concerned. But ultimately, transforming everything into local language examination system, it's too tough unless you establish books and all these things. It's a long drawn process, but
Yeah.
ACT has taken a very good step to initiate the process. I would look at it like this.
In that way, correct. Yes, correct.
Yes, sir.
Anybody want to ask any questions? Unmute and please ask.
Sir, I have
Yes.
a question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sir, we are a developing country. As
Mm.
I have seen even other countries also, like poor countries, African countries, they are providing free education to the even engineering, education, medical also.
Yeah, in some
Okay.
countries, huh?
Yes, sir. Even Ethiopia, India, other almost poor countries, we can say poor countries. So they are providing education as well as they are providing even free pocket money to their monthly charges also. So why can't we provide? Can you comment on this, sir, please?
Yeah, Professor Hussain. It's a
Yes,
very, very
Yeah.
pertinent question. Yeah, we easily get attracted to some such freebies very easily. Say, I would say there is logic in this also. I don't deny that it is required. The first free midday meal scheme was introduced by, I think, M.G. Ramchandran in the country when he was Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. Subsequently, all the states have followed. Now, free this thing, free that thing, free education, free. For your information, some of the states in India are also providing free education. I don't know, Dr. Hussain, whether you know it or not.
Sir, I am belongs to Andhra only. That was 2008.
That's why you know.
Yeah, Dr. Y.S. Rajశేఖర Reddy started this one. So
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the casteism and all here,
No,
because
absolutely.
based on
Let us not. No, caste,
Yeah.
creed, religion is immaterial. We are all first Indians, and we
yes,
will be Indians.
that is the first thing,
That
because
is
what
ultimate.
why I'm asking here, thing
Yeah.
is all people, whoever it is, whether it is OC or BC, whoever it is, economically poor candidates, why they
Yeah.
can't get this one? That is the first thing I'm asking.
That is correct. Yeah. Now, you need to have assess it from two ways. One is the amount of population you need to cater to. Number one.
Okay.
The examples of some foreign countries doing, if you know the population of that and the economic stability of the nation, you would realize it, because we are not quoted. Next one is, as far as the situation in India is concerned, I know the cases. You are saying from next one is the generation of revenue, because if government will have to give means, I don't think none of us, I don't think, I'm telling you, none of us sitting in this conference today would like to lead a life on borrowing. Dr. Hussain, I hope you would agree, and everybody will agree. I don't think you and I would like to run our family by borrowing money from bank or by somebody. Am I right?
Yes.
Correct. There cannot be any denial. Otherwise, our life will be in debt. Now, first to do this, what you said, we need to have sound economy. Sound economy of the nation is doesn't mean that we are generating and our stock market is rocketing high day by day and giving millions of rupees or crores of rupees to certain individuals in India. As per the income tax records, above 1 crore population who have filed ITRs is hardly 2 lakh in our country. Not less, I think less than that. Less than that. Do you feel that more than 2 lakhs, don't we have population in India? There are crores of people who are earning more than 1 lakh in our own country, but they are not filing income tax. How government gets money to run these programs? I know the present situation. I'm not commenting. I'm not commenting on whether right or wrong. Yes, it is required up to certain level. You provide basic education free of cost. You empower the people. After that, provide my philosophy is provide free education to everybody, similar to what you have in United States. United States economy is too big compared. We are struggling. We have our target is by 25. Our honorable Prime Minister has set a target of reaching $5 trillion economy. All these countries like Japan, China, US, they have surpassed all these things long back. Their economy is very sound. They are producing, therefore they are providing free education up to schooling level. Primary education is free, but professional education, whether it is in developed countries, as far as I know, France or UK or Netherlands, small country Netherlands, I'm telling you, Germany, Australia, Canada, US, it is not free. It is very costly compared to India. So many Americans come and pursue their MBBS in India because we offer MBBS at cheaper rate compared to those people. It's not correct. And as far as giving everything free also, from where the government gets back the money. Only yesterday, I think a couple of days back, I'm a keen watcher of news channels. Regular, I don't watch serials or other movies. I watch channels. I'm astonished to know that one of the chief ministers in India, I don't want to name, one of the CMs, this is not a forum, it's a fact. It's not a political statement. That's why I'm giving. The gentleman takes pride in distributing 1.35 lakh crores to the public through different schemes by borrowing an amount of 2 lakh crores from different channels in the world. Who is going to repay that tomorrow? Dr. Hussain and my
Sir,
friends.
here one thing, sir. Whatever you said, it is correct. But only thing is, why can't we provide for those poor people? So after giving 4 years or 5 years time to repay.
I agree. Yeah, you are coming to the point now. I 100% subscribe to the idea of providing free education to all. In fact, I had education from my BTech. I paid some 19 rupees 50 paisa per semester to in Usmania University. I think some 50 rupees for my MTech in Banaras Hindu University, 50 or 90 rupees per term, that is 8 years. Mine was a 2-year batch, last batch in the country. So 90 rupees, I think, per term, 8 months we had 3 terms, 90, 80, 270 rupees. I did my master's degree with the best facilities you can imagine in India. But it is not possible now, unless government is having money. They cannot give, they cannot borrow and do certain level they are borrowing. That's why banks are now encouraged to give loans to the students. Let the students study. Let the students study in a better educational ecosystem and get a better job, earn money and repay back. That should be the system we need to adopt if we have to survive. Otherwise, we'll be providing to certain sections. Definitely, we need to support, and that government is doing. We are giving, I think, to lakhs of students free, not for everybody, of course. And I 100% take your point that without going into the caste creed, provide education free of cost to all economically background. I think government responds to the requirements of the society from time to time. I think now they have included that economically backward some 10%, something is their reservation
Yes,
sort of thing they have come out with. I think ultimately government is what it is. One Hussein or one Shastri or one Sanjay Koth, tomorrow they go to the government. They are our representatives only. They echo the sentiments of the society. Slowly, these things happen. And as far as education is concerned, I think now government is insisting on educational banks to give education loans to the people in a much simpler manner compared to previous years. I think we need to depend on this. Government doesn't have money to support research activities. For your information, Dr. Hussain, I am coming from a centrally funded institution. We get zero grant, capital grant nowadays. For last 2 years, they have freezed. They don't give. They pay only salaries. Government of India is giving to NITK. They are not giving single rupee for your developmental work. Development is adding a new lab, adding a new equipment, adding a new building. No, they have created a fund known as HIFA.
So that is only problem here, sir, because we are getting only.
No, they are saying you approach. No, that is what you cannot have both the. You have to have certain compromise. You approach the HIFA, take the money, and then repay it. Repay how?
Correct.
Generate consultancy. As a faculty, Dr. Hussain is a doctorate. He cannot confine himself after becoming professor to just teaching in the classroom and then go home and enjoy the time with family. You must do research. Once you do research, you gain knowledge to cater to the requirements of industry. Charge industry for that problem. Generate revenue to your institution. You take certain portion, you give something back to the institution so that your institution plows back that money for the development of the institution. This is how the model should work. It cannot be just free of cost. Therefore, Government of India says, you want 1,000 crore, NITK Surathkal, approach HIFA. They are ready to give you whatever amount you want. Invest and then purchase equipment, do research and cater to the requirements of industries. Generate money, charge industries, and generate money, survive on that, develop, and give scholarships also through that IR, internal revenue generated. Yeah, IR funding. We have created a new funding IR for this. So government, you try to become, that is the, you need to change our mindset. We need to change our mindset. We need to become a facilitator. Our new education policy says, don't try to teach a student everything in the classroom. Try to teach the student how to learn. We need to create an ecosystem wherein it is a learning process which needs to be given more emphasis, not direct learning from the teacher, because teacher cannot give everything to the student in the classroom. We all know, every one of us, we have limited knowledge, but teach the student how to learn much more. So the point to be caught here is facilitator. We have to become facilitator. In future, Mr. Hussain and all others, government is going to become only a facilitator. They are decontrolling everything. They are decontrolling everything. You want to survive, you survive based on your competence. Yeah, I will facilitate. I will get you funding. I'll get you this facility. I'll get you that facility. You learn. You become empowered. So this is the new concept in India. This was the concept a few decades back in the countries which we very frequently take the names. It is something like that.
Yeah. Thank you,
So we
sir.
are entering a new era. We have to accept it. Yes, please.
Any participant want to ask? Otherwise, they can put their questions on the chat box. I can share to sir, and we'll take that even the answer to that questions. Even I can do the recording with sir also. Anybody, sir? Proceed further.
Yeah.
I think that Kamal Kannan has arrived. I think Dr. Kamal Kannan has arrived. That second session. Okay.
Okay.
Please.
Shall I proceed, sir?
Yeah, please.
So thank you, sir. Sir Ram Shastri sir, you have explained and elaborated about NEP 2020 and roles and responsibility of students and faculty members in detail. You have explained very nicely. But only thing is here what I observed this. So we need to get even engineering college, other college also. We need to get the training for the faculty members. That is a missing in our engineering system actually. So that I think that point also you may consider that for your further discussions in other meetings. So I hope every faculty member participated here. They got the good knowledge about NEP 2020, and I hope every faculty members teaching fraternity will be part of better education from their sides. Thank you for sharing your valuable experiences about NEP and your teaching experiences. Thank
Yes,
you,
yes,
sir.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
Pleasure.
Thanks for sparing
Pleasure,
time and
Mr. Ajay
accepting
Kumar.
our invitation. Yeah, accepting
Thank you.
our
Thank you very
invitation.
much.
Thank you.
I enjoyed interacting with you all. Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity.
Yes, yes. It
All the best
refreshes all
to
our
every
memories.
participant.
Yes,
you.
yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
I take leave.
Yes. Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.